Today's AskReddit post. Serious, what's a common life pro tip that is actually bad advice? Oh boy, this is gonna be a good one. Let's get started. If you do what you love, you will never work a day in your life. Many people use this advice thinking they'll be able to easily coast through life and are shocked when they have to face the reality of it being an actual job. When you do something that you love as a career rather than as a hobby, it becomes much more serious and has more responsibilities. Sometimes it can even lead to you hating the thing you used to love. This isn't to discourage anyone who wants to pursue a career in something they enjoy, like a photographer or a chef. If you want to have a career doing something you enjoy, that's great. But you have to go in knowing that it won't be all sunshine and rainbows 100% of the time. There will be difficulties from time to time and you won't have the same amount of freedom that you used to have when it was just a hobby. As long as you go in knowing that and are willing to adapt and work hard, you'll be fine. Tip your head back to stop a nosebleed. Don't do that. Tip your head slightly forward with a kerchief pressed under your nose and allow the blood to clot. Edit. Wow, this post blew up. Thank you for the silver. EMT here. Little side note, if you tilt your head back, you can also aspirate the blood, and then you have two problems. I think it would have to be not to take no for an answer. You don't win every time. Agreed. I feel like having someone aggressively refuse a no from me for trivial things alone would be uncomfortable after a while. Without going into too much detail, I had a customer at my small business who wanted special treatment. He went on and on that he needed 1. A totally unique version of our product made just for him, and 2. A major discount because he was an influencer. I told him that I could do one thing or the other, but not both. He got really upset, not like regular belligerent impatient customer, but like about to cry. He just couldn't walk away or accept a compromise. At the end he was pleading with me, come on man, let me feel like I had a win. Looks don't matter. No matter how confident you are with yourself, it is inevitable that people will judge you based on your appearance. You shouldn't judge a person on their looks, but the fact of the matter is that a lot of people will and you need to adapt to that. Play hard to get. Most of the time, playing hard to get just guarantees that both of you are going to end up alone. The dating world is competitive and few people have the time to constantly pursue someone who is not demonstrating any interest. Stop playing these silly games and show a little interest back. You will be giving yourself many more opportunities with people you otherwise might have missed out on. Yeah, that's a game all about power control. It has nothing to do with loving the other person. Absolutely do save birds that fell out of their nests. You're letting them die if you don't. Their mom doesn't give a single poop about their smell, so please save them. Yes, the birds won't touch a baby that smells like a human thing is a total myth. However, just be sure that the baby isn't a healthy fledgling first. It's normal and necessary for a fledgling to be on the ground while they're still learning to fly. But a nestling that's not in the nest definitely needs help, even if it's just to put them back in the nest they fell from. How would one tell a healthy fledgling apart from a nestling? Would their feathers, or lack of feathers, distinguish them? Never go to bed angry. Sometimes you just need some time to chill the duck out and ruminate on why you're angry. Constantly talking about everything is what they show on TV. But if you don't have time to process your feelings, you can just end up fighting even more than if you just took a day to chill. Everyone in my life knows me as a really chill person who never gets angry. But the truth is that I do get angry. I just take a rage nap when it happens, lol. Every single time. I wake up with a clearer head and calmer disposition. Just be yourself, you're perfect just the way you are and never let anyone change you. Are double-edged swords preventing many people from growing out of horrid habits or bad personality traits. If a lot of people are telling you to change your behavior, chances are you're gonna duck up your life if you don't pay attention. If one person tells you you're wrong, maybe you could actually be right. If everyone tells you you're wrong, you're wrong. Travel while you're young and not tied down. While it's great if you can afford it, It has been offered in my experience chiefly by people who have folks to fall back on. Traveling the world until you are broke is not a good life pro tip if you get stranded with no one to bail you out at the end. Plus, who says you'll be tied down when you're older? If you know you eventually want to travel, you can plan for it and have a bomb time with your big boy dollars. And when you're retired, you're sure as hell not tied down. Just come out. Even if your parents hate you, it's better than being someone you're not. No. Come out when it's safe. When you have somewhere else to live, you've faked it for this long. You can do a little longer and stay alive. It sucks. It hurts. It's a bitch and unfair. But you'll live. Some parents realize they're jerks and become accepting. Some realize they were too accepting and outright murder their child. Be safe. Being outed early was horrid and made life a living hell for years. I deeply regret it to this day. It's okay to lie about this, and it really isn't their business anyway. Just be yourself. The most ironic part of this phrase is it's meant to actually suggest being more confident, when in reality it comes off as just be the eccentric weirdo you are, which usually doesn't work out that well for most people. It means act like yourself because you deserve someone who likes the eccentric weirdo you are. There's no point in getting someone to fall in love with you and then having them leave when you finally act like yourself. Just do the work. Not horrible advice, but incomplete. I find that when people are stuck in life, it's often because they are doing the wrong kind of work. Work that's solitary, unmotivated, not strategic. Instead, I encourage people to join the community that is associated with the work they want to do. If you want to be a comedian or a filmmaker like me, hanging out at a show that you like, or collaborating with other creators, and building relationships there, and feeding those relationships just as often as you're doing the work will ultimately be more beneficial. At some point in your 20s, most people realize it's not as much about what you know, or even what you do. It's about who you know. Who you know also has way more of an impact on your overall happiness. I prefer work smarter, not harder. If a girl has declined to go out with you, that means you stop asking her. It's not her playing hard to get. She just isn't interested, unless she surprises you and says otherwise. So don't follow the if she says no. You've just gotta keep trying, bull poop. Just respect her boundaries. Edit. Wow. I had no idea a comment like this would get so much attention. Thanks Redditors for the most upvotes I think I've ever received. It's actually just old advice. Many years ago, women were told to turn every man down the first time or they were whores. So it means men had to ask multiple times. It was just the way it was. Now it would be intercausal harassment. A bad workman always blames his tools. Sometimes the thing you're using is the problem, rather than it being user error. And sometimes practice isn't enough to make up the shortfall. I think the key to that saying is the word always. I don't see a problem with this saying. A bad workman always blames his tools. But one who blames his tools is not necessarily a bad workman. You need to make a family so you won't end up alone. Well, you'll end up alone surrounded by people if you don't know how to be there for you. People get into parenthood for all the wrong reasons and 90% of them are terrible at it. And somehow, the species continues on. If you can't handle me at my worst, you don't deserve me at my best. Absolutely wrong and super self-centered. At our worst, we're all super poopty and our loved ones don't deserve that. Some may not be able to handle us at our worst due to their own life stress and mental health conditions. This is just a recipe for pushing important people away. You can't smell vodka. Yes you can. And you reek of it. Yep, learned this too many times. Still learning. Just be happy or look on the bright side. Great overall advice. But sometimes in the moment, it can be the absolute worst. Sometimes things just suck and we want to break down and cry. That's okay. We shouldn't be talked out of those emotions when we're upset and obviously feeling low. Yes, this is toxic positivity. I had never heard this term, but it's so accurate. Ignore the bullies and they'll stop. This advice makes me want to slap a bitch. You are giving them and everyone who sees it permission. Silence is acceptance. That is the real advice. In school, there is no winning against the bullies. You can't ignore them and you can't fight them. You just do your time until it's over. Whenever a kid asks me about overcoming bullies, I just change the subject and think, just don't kill yourself because of these dicks. Getting a 4-year degree is essential for a successful career. Acquiring marketable skills in a field you enjoy is what matters, not spending X amount of time in college. Many 4-year degrees leave you with very few skills that are needed in the job market, while many trade school programs only take a few months and put you on the track to a high-paying job. We shouldn't be sending everyone to college. Not everyone is cut out for it. Not everyone is smart enough. And not everyone will get much out of it. We still need people to fix leaky pipes and roofs, to mow the lawn, to drive your kids to school on the bus. If you want to go to a trade school to be an auto mechanic, and that's your thing, more power to you. Do what you love and do it well. If you want to get a job out of high school instead of continuing your education, you should be able to do that without scorn or unsolicited advice encouraging you to go study somewhere you don't want to go. Taking on debt you may not be able to repay. The push to send everyone to college no matter what is ridiculous. I believe everyone should have an equal opportunity to go to college, but they definitely shouldn't be failures if they can't or don't want to. There was a quote that was thrown around a lot. It was something like, a ship only sinks when it lets water in. Meaning if you don't let negativity get to you, you'll be fine. It's total bull. Of course you can't let one single negative comment destroy your confidence. But I've always thought this could easily be misunderstood and used to shame people who are depressed because they have a lot of poop going on in their lives. If you're surrounded by negativity, it will get to you sooner or later and there is no shame in that. It's not your fault. A more accurate metaphor would be, a ship that's letting water in will still sink if you fail to acknowledge it. Their family let it go. My dad, who is a doctor, watched as I got a viral infection that spread to my brain and I went blind and deaf. He called my mom and said I'd be dead by the time he got home from work the next day. My sister, who hasn't spoken to him since middle school, had to break into his house. Find me. Call 911. Dad was mad that she broke in. Said nothing about me. OMG. Clearly you lived, but what the duck? You can be anything you wanna be. No, you can't. People with money could be anything they wanna be. The rest of us probably have to work really hard to maybe attain our goals if we are lucky. That's why I use auto-tune and I don't. X Factor. Never change a running system. Heard it so many times at work it almost makes me vomit when hearing it. It's just an excuse for being too lazy to make something better even a tiny little bit cause it works so far. Why should I change something? It's a symptom of people who have been thrown under the bus when something breaks. For example, if you install Firefox on your grandma's computer to use instead of Edge, and get her all set up with shortcuts to Facebook, etc. on her desktop, 2 years later when her hard drive goes kaput, it's clearly your fault because you messed with it that one time. When this happens to people, especially in an office environment, they become very risk averse. The thought process goes, if it's not broken, for duck's sake don't touch it or we're all in trouble if it ever breaks. Believe me, they're just as stressed out about you as you are about them. You're perfect the way you are. No you're not. No one is. You should always strive to grow and become a better you. I get it's encouraging for those who struggle with their identity, but working in schools, I've seen way too many students who think that means there is no room for growth. Ignore what others think of you. Human interaction is a cornerstone of our existence, and depending on how well you're liked among others determines the relative ease of how well you're able to get through life. Being mindful of others and their feelings should inform your thoughts and actions to a certain extent. There are obviously exceptions, but to simply outright ignore everybody and just maintain your course no matter what is not good advice. I think lots of people take ignore what others think of you too literally when it's meant to be more of a remain unbothered at people's unnecessary negative opinions of you. Lots of assholes in the world use this phrase as a crutch to ignore the obvious attempts to hint that they're an asshole. If you love your job, you'll never work a day in your life. No matter what career you choose, no matter how fortunate you are, there's going to be parts of what you do that are going to be annoying, unpleasant, and difficult. And there's no guarantee that doing something for fun is going to save fun when you've got to do it because you need to pay rent. Pick a career based on what you're good at and what people value. You're selling your time. From your perspective, you are selling your time. Yeah, people aren't buying your time though. They're buying the value you offer and the time they spend with you. Follow your heart. We have a brain for a reason. Our hearts are fickle and what may seem like love may just be infatuation, etc. Understanding what you are feeling and why is important, as well as realizing that some commitments are worth it to push through the difficult times when our hearts aren't in it. Not posted on Reddit much, but almost any boomer advice is useless in 2020. Just go up to the manager, shake their hand, and ask for a job. They will think you are weird and tell you to apply online. Keep asking out that love interest over and over. You'll wear them down. Borders on stalking and is likely a giant waste of time that won't turn into a lasting relationship. Pull up your bootstraps and work a part-time job to pay for college or home. College and homes have gotten markedly more expensive and wages have stagnated for the past 30 years. Practice makes perfect. No, it doesn't. Practice makes permanent. If you continuously repeat shoddy work, you'll just become very efficient at making that shoddy work, and it'll be hard for you to ever improve. Practice along with introspection, analysis, and feedback makes perfect. My mom loved this saying off a children's show. Practice helps you improve, because along with what you're saying, nobody is going to be perfect, no matter how much they practice. There's no real catchy way to put it, but the sentiment that your life revolves around your job. You don't have to have a career or be ultra successful in your field. You just have to have a job that lets you earn enough money to enjoy your life and achieve all the things you want to do outside of work. Or rather, work to live. Don't live to work. Saying hang in there to depressed people. Kind sir or madam, could I trouble you for a bit of rope so I can go hang? Don't let others control your feelings. Everyone has feelings, and they will be affected by what others say. This just leads to you bottling up your emotions. Our experiences, including from other human interaction, will influence our feelings regardless of how hard we try to ignore them. I feel as if bottling up your emotions will do a lot more damage in the long run versus being vocal, etc. Also can be very toxic from the other point of view. You shouldn't let my feelings toward you affect your emotions. This can just be an excuse for horrible people to continue emotionally abusing others with no regard for empathy. Say what's on your mind. Ducking don't. You don't want the hassle of someone within earshot being offended or being offended on someone else's behalf just because your opinion is different from any narrative. I know far too many people who follow this poor piece of advice. They assume they're coming off as confident and bold, when in reality it's an excuse to come off as an asshole. The most ironic part is these same people typically are very sensitive when it's done back. Push through your anxiety and it will be more manageable. Fuck that. Talk it out and get to the source. Yep. Trying to push my way through anxiety has definitely screwed me over quite a few times. It was only when I started addressing it that I got better. Anything that advises you to be a dick to someone who seemingly doesn't deserve it. Be macho. Women love that poop. Don't worry about your friend that says you're mean. He's a pussy. Your employer will appreciate you being aggressive and brutish. As a general rule, being a dick is rarely a good idea. It sucks how dudes constantly are being told to treat people like poop. Kindness is underrated. Marriage long-term partnership is a lot of work. You have to work at it every day. Bull ducking poop. Your relationship should make your life better and easier. Sure, there will be hard times, but it should be easy to be with someone most of the time. It shouldn't be a lot of hard work or something you have to work at every day. Most problems should be the two of you versus the problem. And most of the hard times should be things life throws at you that you help each other through. You should not constantly be trying to make your marriage work. If your relationship is difficult, it may have just run its course. Marriage being with someone should be easy. You can't run away from your problems, bloom where you're planted. Not always bad advice, but sometimes you absolutely do need to leave a toxic environment before your life can improve. I'm if your flowers aren't thriving, you change the soil. Not the plants kind of girl myself. Be yourself is a good one, but here's why it's also a bit bad for me personally. Sometimes there are trends and whatever that I actually like, but then people go be yourself, and it damages me. I am working on it and I am being myself. Whenever I hear that, I just tell myself that I am. To add on to your statement, an unfortunately large portion of people see the excuse of being yourself to ignore the negative traits they shouldn't be continuing but choose to ignore because they are being their true selves. You need to forgive them for yourself. You need to let go of that anger. Here's the thing. I've tried both of those. What happened to me is that forgiving the person who wronged me led to them hurting me more. I fell into a cycle of sadness, anger. I should forgive them. Telling them I forgive them. Them doing it again. I am angry. And I am going to keep being angry until I never have to see that person again. Harbor Freight is the same, carjack stand for less. I worried to ask how someone learned this was not good advice. The same way most factory safety regulations came to be. Blood. Not really a pro tip but still fits. If you fail in high school you will never go to college. Although it helps a ton to have good grades, most colleges will accept students more on their SAT scores than grades. Source: my aunt works in admissions for a college. Edit: I'm not saying grades aren't important, I'm just saying they aren't as important as they seem. If at first you don't succeed, try again. Also, insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. Combine those. If at first you don't succeed, try something else or try a different way. Maybe practice and then try again later. Man up. When people are like, if you're unhappy, change your situation. Quit your job. Move to a new state. Cut off all your relationships and live in your car. You can completely change your life at any time. Except there are a lot of financial barriers. And a lot of very good reasons to not drive across the country and be homeless with no plan. And aside from that, you really should think through big life-changing decisions, especially if they involve leaving a job, a town, a relationship, whatever. Because sometimes you find out what you really need to do is to stay and work things out. And if you just randomly up and leave without even giving it a thought, you may never get the chance to do that. Not saying risks don't pay off sometimes. And I'm not saying you can't change situations that make you miserable, but just doing whatever you want without making a plan and putting thought to it rarely works out well. Figure out what makes you miserable, why it makes you miserable, then plan to change it based on what you're able to do. Not particularly a statement, but the general acceptance of debt in our society is bad. Don't use someone else's money to impress people you don't even like. Having been debt-free for nearly a year now, it's been the best thing my wife and I have ever done. We delay gratification and save for the things we want. Tilt your head back when you have a nosebleed. Don't fucking do that. I used to get chronic nosebleeds and people told me this all the time. The blood will rush to your throat and you'll ducking choke on it. It's not fun. I still have to correct people not to ducking do it. Fake it till you make it, you will eventually implode. Just smiling and acting happy doesn't fix your problems. I've been faking it till I make it for decades. Really, it causes a lot of stress. All of the time. Lately, though, I've been trying to turn those thoughts around. I have zero recognition of the things I do effortlessly or without overthinking. I think if I can do that, anyone can. And completely dismiss all of my achievements as no achievement at all. So, I have been trying to retrain myself to appreciate the things I do well. There are plenty. It is time I gave myself credit for all this hard work. Bro, you actually watched the whole video. I'd give you a high five if I was a human. Make sure to click the like button and subscribe for more great content. See you next time.